続いてはネットアップチーフテクノロジーエヴァンジェリストマット・ワッツから世界の IT 業界がこれからどうなっていくのか、サステナビリティというキーワードに着目してネットアップの考えをお話しさせていただきます。こちらの進行はシハブさんにお願いしたいと思います。それではよろしくお願いします。
Hi Matt, how are you today? So good to see you again.
Konnichiwa, Shihab-san. Pleasure to be back with you again this year.
Great, thank you so much. Matt, I've got a few questions and I'd like to exchange some of information with you. So let me start with the first question. Last year, we talked about hopefully moving into the next wave of the pandemic with the vaccines and containment starting to take effect. However, it's clear that this whole process is taking longer than any of us had hoped. So what are you seeing with the sustained impact of the pandemic and the cloud acceleration?
Yes, great question. And, I didn't think we'd still be in this situation. I actually booked to come to Japan in November last year, thinking that would be entirely possible. And yet we find ourselves still sort of in this difficult time. So, a recent 2021 survey that we did around kind of hybrid cloud enterprise adoption, it said that the rate of acceleration of cloud will become even more rapid. 77% of executives interviewed plan to globally operate their business in these hybrid cloud environments for the foreseeable future. So I think I talked last year when I met with you and I came on and we had this conversation about these three waves in IT, and the current wave that we're in being the cloud wave. And I think what I've really seen over the last year is a maturity to that approach. If I look back a year or two ago, many organizations have what I call kind of a cloud mandate. I would ask them, what's your cloud strategy? And they would often say, cloud first. And these kind of mandates were often decided at the highest levels, but it wasn't a strategy. And then when I'd ask them, well, what's your strategy to go cloud first? They'd often just say, Amazon or Azure, again, which is a destination, not a strategy. Now, I think the big change I've seen is that when I ask people about their strategy, the reply is now often cloud first with a question mark. And the strategy now is often to look at the cloud first to see if the workload will really benefit from it, either from flexibility, scale, cost, improved data accessibility. And that's a much smarter approach. And I think as businesses take this approach and genuinely experience benefits from the cloud, then I think we'll continue to see further acceleration, which is reflected substantially in the growth that we're continuing to see with those hyperscale providers. But talking to you and colleagues in Japan, it's clear that the COVID pandemic has made many of the workers who make up Japanese society keenly aware of the need to change the way they work. The transformation to a workflow based on remote work has forced the rapid digitization from traditional paper and stamp-based processes in both the private and the public sector. And I think our data fabric strategy is enabling people to work with the cloud in the way that's best for them, when it's best for them, which I think has put NetApp in a very strong position to help.
Great, thank you. So 2021 felt like a big year of investment into AI. And for 2022, we are starting to hear terms like productized AI. So can you tell us a little bit more about what this means?
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me if AI is the next wave. And I think it has the potential to be as we see more and more skills. But even so, it's been transformative in industries with access to huge data sets and trained algorithms to analyze and interpret them. I think in 2022, we'll see AI permeate more industries, whether that's kind of agriculture, food production, fast food chains and entertainment. And I think we'll see them start to tap into AI to work out how they can benefit from new capabilities. But most industries, in fact, nearly all industries, will look for how they can gain from kind of more general automation and the simplification of processes. So that term of kind of productized AI, I think will kind of manifest itself in three ways. The first one is that managed services will become a primary delivery model for AI. So companies will look increasingly to the Amazon, Microsoft, Google, IBM clouds as a way of enabling them to start getting involved and develop AI. And then I think there's this new kind of emerging area called tiny machine learning. Now, what we've seen over the last decade or so is that machine learning algorithms have grown, to huge size, requiring huge processor speeds, and that will continue. But what we're now starting to see is this increasing use of AI at the edge, and that's down to extremely low cost, very resource constrained devices. So you need to think sensors rather than compute devices. And this is another generation of technologies that are going to feed into this ever-growing kind of edge core cloud data pipeline. And then I think, even countries and governments will start to really recognize the benefits of AI and ML for their own citizens to accelerate economic transformation. And I think that one of the key success factors to address this is that seamless replication of data across sites, across regions, to create a cohesive and unified AI pipeline, bringing together data management capabilities with popular open source tools and frameworks.
I see. And this takes me to the next topic, which is data. When we look at data, what are some of the data trends that we are seeing, and how do you think these will play out as we get further into 2022 and beyond?
Well, the value of data has never been clearer. However, more often than not, it still remains kind of siloed within applications, which means it's not being used as effectively as possible. And at NetApp, we've been advocating a data fabric as a strategic approach to enterprise storage requirements. And Gartner predicts that by 2024, those data fabric deployments, the companies that invest in and build data fabrics, will help them quadruple efficiency and data utilization while cutting down those human-driven data management tasks. And I think as technology continues to drive change and innovation, we're seeing some real sub-trends. First is the kind of analytics and optimization of digital services. As automation and smarter applications take control, we'll definitely see the rise of FinOps as people start to work out, how do we control the amount of money that we're spending in the cloud, especially when we see this growth of AI. And then I think the second really big one is production environments. We're starting to really see a clear move away from legacy applications run in a more traditional way to the containerization of those services and microservices. And I think as that happens, microservices running enterprise applications encounter the same challenges that we've been solving for the last 30 years. They need secure, efficient, highly available enterprise data capabilities. And again, I think we've positioned ourselves extremely well to be able to support that with what we're doing with Astra.
Great. The next topic is a topic that is very special to me as well. And it's becoming a topic that is frequently discussed here in Japan as well. I'm starting to hear a lot more from companies around SDGs, ESG, GX. Now, some of these are quite broad topics, but central to all of them is sustainability. So why do you think this is the case, and what role does IT play in helping companies to become more sustainable?
It's one of those topics that seems to have hit us in the last 12 to 18 months and is becoming one of the most frequent discussions I'm having with people. And I think there was a whole bunch of things that happened over the last year with COP26, the Paris Agreement, even the 2021 Climate Change Conference, which was Asia Pacific's kind of conference around this. So I think the interesting part of it is that there's generally a lack of awareness as to the impact that IT and data and technologies in general can actually have or are having in terms of sustainability. If you think about the growth of data that we're seeing, well, it was 1.2 zettabytes in 2010, that grew to 33 zettabytes in 2018, and is looking to explode to 175 zettabytes by 2025. This is massive, massive amounts of data. But here's maybe some things that you didn't know. At the moment, data centers consume between 1% and 2% of the world's electricity. That is predicted to grow to up to 8% by 2030. 8% of the world's electricity will be feeding data centers. And only 32% of the data we create is ever used again after it's been created. So that represents both an opportunity and a challenge. And I think one of the things it will do is it will force people to look at data and whether the cloud is a more sustainable place to run and manage that data. And the estimates are that maybe 49, 50% or more of data will move to the cloud as a more sustainable destination for it to be. But if we look forward, how much bigger is this challenge likely to be? Well, if we keep growing the way that we are, we will hit a yottabyte of data by 2030. And for those of you who maybe don't know, a yottabyte is 1,000 zettabytes, and 1,000 zettabytes is 1 trillion terabytes of data will be created in 2030. There's very likely to be environmental taxes. It'll come across or manifest itself in different ways depending on where you are, but we suspect that taxes will come in as an incentive to make people address this problem. And if you take nothing else away, then this piece of context, I think, is really important. That's 68% of data that we never ever use again after it's created. The technology that that is sat on is creating more CO2 emissions than the entire airline industry. And we do not hold them up as the poster child for a green and sustainable operation. So I think it's going to become increasingly more critical as companies start to recognize the impact and they need to be able to do something about it. And again, if you look at what we've been doing with the portfolio, getting the foundations right can help you be more efficient, can help you expand into or tap into the cloud. Understanding what you have, what is that 68% of data? What could you do with it? What strategies could you use to better and more effectively manage it? And then, of course, right the way through to understanding how your entire operation works. And then even when you do go to the cloud, the cloud providers, as they tell you, they're responsible for providing a sustainable cloud. You are responsible for your sustainability within that cloud. So the cloud is not the complete answer. It's a part of the answer. But then it's looking at how do we optimize technologies in the cloud to make sure that we're being efficient and sustainable in the way that we use them.
Great. Really great insights, especially into data. And of course, this time the event is so much focused on the data, how we optimize data and how we leverage data going forward. Matt, thank you so much for your time today. Please stay safe and hope to catch up with you sometime soon.
Well, the plan is that I'm going to be coming to Japan this November. So hopefully the next time I see you, Shihab-san, it will be in person rather than here on a Zoom call.
I'll be looking forward to welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you.
NetAppのチーフエヴァンジェリスト、マット・ワッツでした。